Hi, happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. After looking at the poll, it looks like this book, The Friendship War by Andrew Clements won. I'm going to read the back just before we get started so we kind of have an idea what it's going to be about. Grace and Allie have been best friends since second grade. Allie's always right in the center of things, and Grace is usually happy to be Allie's sidekick. But what happens when everything changes? This time it's Grace who suddenly has everyone's attention when she accidentally starts a new fad at school, a fad that has first her class, then her grade, and then her entire school collecting and trading and even fighting over buttons. A fad that might get her in major trouble and could be the end of Grace and Allie's friendship. Because Allie's not used to being one-upped by anybody. There's only one thing for Grace to do. With the help of Hank, the biggest button collector in the 6th grade, she'll have to figure out a way to end the fad. But once a fad started, can it be stopped? And this one's kind of fun because we have Grace and Allie in 3rd grade. Alright, so let's get started. The Friendship War. Right. Chapter 1 is called All of Them. Flying from Chicago to Boston by myself hasn't been a big deal, as my dad said it was going to be. But nothing ever is. The second I turn on my phone, it dings with 3 texts from him. Text me as soon as you land. Your plane should have landed by now. Are you all right? So I text him right away. All good. Just landed. Love, from Boston. Dad worries. He calls it planning, but it's worry. Mom worries less because she knows I don't do dumb stuff. Not on purpose. My brother Ben knows that too. Actually, Ben understands me pretty well. I understand him totally, which isn't that hard. He's 15 and he mostly thinks about 2 things, girls and music. Ben's music isn't rock or jazz or rap. It's marching band, which makes his girlfriend Hunt tougher than it needs to be. At least, that's my theory. It's the whole marching with the clarinet while wearing a cowboy hat thing. However, if it hadn't been for Ben's August band camp, the entire family might be here on the plane with me, and I wouldn't be getting to spend time alone with Grandpa. So hooray for marching band! And if Dad had been a little less worried, then he and Mom probably wouldn't have got me my own iPhone a couple of weeks ago. So hooray for dads who worry! Grandpa's waiting right at the end of the walkway from the plane, just like Dad told him to. Hey, Grace, welcome to Boston. Hey, Grandpa, you look great. I'm not saying that to be polite or something. When we all come to Massachusetts last summer, it was for Grandma's funeral, and back then, Grandpa seemed way too thin and old. He looks much better now, and when we hug, I can tell he's not so skinny anymore. The flight attendant in charge of me looks at Grandpa's driver's license. After he signs a form, we are on the move. Me with my backpack and him pulling my suitcase. Anything at baggage claim? Nope. Good, so we're headed for central parking, unless you're hungry. Dad loaded me up with tons of food. I could survive on leftovers for weeks. That's my son-in-law, the Eagle Scout. Once an eagle, always an eagle. Then he says, Hey, did you see that link I sent you about how they're making jet fuel out of vegetable oil? Yeah, I loved that. Of all the people in the world, I think Grandpa understands me best. He's a real estate agent, but he likes math and science almost as much as I do. Last week we swapped texts while we watched an episode of Nova, and for years he's been emailing me links to news he finds online, like an article about robots that can travel through space, and they can keep building new copies of themselves. And they do that for thousands of years until the whole galaxy gets explored. Except, I can't prove that Grandpa is really into that science stuff. He might be making himself like it because he knows that I like it. Either way, it's pretty great. At the car, Grandpa loads my gear into the trunk. How about you lean back and take a nap? When we get to Burham, I'll take you to get some ice cream. And I've got a surprise for you, too. A surprise? What? Not telling. Well, can the surprise come first before the ice cream? That gets a chuckle. Excellent idea. It's so good to hear Grandpa laugh. We get going, but I don't want to sleep. I want to stay awake and talk, especially about Grandma. except it might be too soon for him to talk about her. It's still kind of too soon for me, too. During 3rd and 4th grades, I called her a couple of times every week, and she just let me talk and talk. I could call her about anything or about nothing. And if I ran out of stuff to say, she always had something new to tell me, especially about her garden and all the plants and insects and animals. If Grandma hadn't been so great at describing every little thing she loved, no way I would have gotten into science like I have. Anyway, I know we both miss her, which must be a lot different for Grandpa than it is for me. He knew her for so much longer. Compared to him, maybe I hardly knew her at all. It'd be nice to talk, but I got up at 5:30 this morning, and I stayed awake to watch a movie on the plane. Once we reach the highway, the humming tires wipe me out. Where are we? I blink and look around, and I remember the road into Burham is up near the New Hampshire border, and it winds through hills covered with pine and maple trees. We pass old farmhouses, most of them white with green or black shutters. There are 2 apple orchards, then corn and pumpkin fields surrounded by stone walls. Land in Illinois does not look like this. The air feels different too, less humid, sort of crisp, even in the last week of August. Grandpa explained once how the soil here is so rocky that it can't hold moisture the way it does in Illinois, and that got us started on learning about North America glaciers during the last ice age. We get to the town center, and Grandpa says, "Shut your eyes and don't peek until I say so." So I close my eyes, and then I pretend I've been kidnapped and blindfolded, which is probably a weird thing to do, but it makes my observations seem like they matter. I feel the car go straight, and I slow count to 30 before we stop. Maybe a traffic light? No, a stop sign, because we move ahead, then stop, move ahead, stop, and the turn signal is clicking. Okay, so we went 30 seconds at about 30 miles an hour. I do the math, and since going 60 miles per hour means traveling 1 mile per minute, going 30 miles an hour means going half a mile per minute. And we just traveled half a minute, so we went about 1/4 of a mile. Which is what I'll tell the police when I call them with the phone that I've cleverly hid in my left sock, so they can figure out how to track the kidnappers and rescue me. The car turns left, and I count to 115 before we slow to a stop, and I hear the turn signal again. So, almost 2 minutes at 30 miles per hour, which is 1 mile. Then it's a sharp right, some bumps and squeaks, and a full stop. Okay, open your eyes now. I'm looking at a gravel parking lot full of tall weeds, and we're next to a long, thick brick building. Up near the roof, there's a painted sign with faded letters. Burham Mills. I bought this whole place just last week. Isn't it great? Grandpa sounds like Ben after he got his new clarinet. Yeah, it's great. And there's a lot of zip in my voice because I can tell he wants me to love it. But as I'm snapping pictures with my phone, all I'm seeing is a good spot to make a zombie movie or hide a kidnapped girl. The windows on the ground floor of the building are boarded up, and second and third windows are mostly broken, and the brick walls are covered with graffiti. Cracked granite steps lead to the gray middle doors held shut by a rusted chain and a padlock. I love this place! It almost cost me nothing, and by next year the first floor will be full of nice little shops with beautiful offices and Riverview condos up above. Before you go home, I'm going to give you the grand tour, but let's head back to Main Street to get that ice cream. It's funny, but I can't remember Grandpa ever doing something like this before. I thought that he just helped other people buy and sell properties, and part of me wonders if he'll be tackling a project like this if Grandma were here. I tell myself that this is scientific curiosity, but I know I'm just being noisy. Alright, we're going to stop here. We'll be back with this again tomorrow. Have a great Monday.